Even though the Packers just won this game against the Panthers, man, you still kind of feel like you lost. It was just an embarrassing game on the defensive side, yet again. So, just like last week, and just like we've been saying all week, I'll say it again. Fire Joe Barry. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into the channel. Happy holidays to everyone watching. Yeah, the Packers just beat the Carolina Panthers, the at the time 2-12, now 2-13 Carolina Panthers in Week 16, 33-30, in a nail biter that ended on the Panthers not being able to spike the ball to tie the game. Whereas if they got that spike off, they're probably hitting that field goal, and maybe the Packers end up losing this game. We have a lot to talk about today in terms of this Packers team. Potential playoffs, maybe. Joe Barry shouldn't get back on the team plane and go back to Green Bay, right? I honestly, at this point, it was kind of the best case scenario, in my opinion. The Packers offense scores 30 plus. Great game by the offense. Had some issues here and there, but overall, great game by the offense. And the defense gives up 30 plus to the worst team in football. Also potentially signaling a Joe Barry fire. If it doesn't happen now, I don't know if it's going to happen. Right? We all expect, okay, well, we'll just wait to the end of the season and Joe Barry will be fired and whatnot. But if you give up 30 points to Bryce Young in this Panthers offense, which have never done so, right? They've never even scored 4 offensive touchdowns until today. They've never scored 30 points until today. If you don't fire him now, it's when are you going to? So in today's video, we're going to break down my instant thoughts and reactions on this game. The Packers are now 7-8, and their playoff hopes definitely are still alive. But I know a lot of us probably aren't even thinking about playoffs, especially how we just barely escaped away with a victory against the Panthers. But I'm a statistics guy, and they technically, still can get in. All right, so let's start on defense because, obviously we got to talk about this. The last 2 weeks, the Packers made both Tommy DeVito and Baker Mayfield look amazing and the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Honestly, I think Bryce Young has a chance to get the NFC Offensive Player of the Week based on how poor he's been all season and how well the Packers made him look in today's game. Bryce Young finished 23 of 36, so not crazy efficient. 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 110 quarterback rating. It was Bryce Young's most passing yards he's had all season and his highest quarterback rating all season. So just another game of the Packers defense making subpar quarterbacks look like great quarterbacks. And the one thing is, the Packers defense actually did well in stopping the run. Chuba Hubbard, I thought, would have a good day. I thought he'd go for over 80 yards rushing. They mainly stopped him. 16 carries for 43 yards, 2.7 average, and a touchdown. But just like the last 2 weeks, especially last week against the Buccaneers, the Panthers started to figure out, why even run the ball when we can just throw it and there's guys wide open and there's no one around them? Adam Thielen can just run across the middle wide open. There's no one within 5 yards of him. Why would we run the ball if we could do that? So this Joe Barry defense just continues to be a detriment to this Packers football team. And yes, they won this game, but man, they just gave up 30 points to the Carolina Panthers. I cannot stress that enough. The Panthers have never had 4 offensive touchdowns in a game. They've never had 30 points in a game this year, and it seemed very easy for them to do so in this game. They made Bryce Young look like prime Russell Wilson. And I was hopeful to start this game. Jair Alexander active, Anthony Johnson Jr. starting at safety. Joe Barry started to give a lot of different looks. He was, basically running a cover 0 look with a lot of players on the defensive line, disguising certain coverages, disguising certain blitzes. And then in the second half, it just went to the same old Joe Barry we all know to love, that soft zone, no disguise defense where the quarterback can just throw anywhere he wants in the middle or underneath, and it's just wide open. In terms of receivers for the Panthers, DJ Chark went 6 for 98, 2 touchdowns. He made some very impressive catches in this game, especially late on that last drive. That sideline catch right before their last play, very impressive. The touchdown, very impressive. So, great catches by Chark, great throws by Bryce Young in those instances. But it's crazy how we continue to make these quarterbacks look amazing when all year they haven't been. Adam Thielen, the Packer killer, went 6 for 94, was wide open a ton. Tommy Tremble, their tight end, who, isn't amazing by any means, went 4 for 59. 29 because there's multiple times just up the seam he's wide open, like every other tight end that plays the Green Bay Packers. Steven Sullivan, 3 for 21. Amir Smith-Marset went 1 for 18, also had a rushing touchdown. Smith-Marset ran 2 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. Bryce Young didn't run too much, 4 carries, 17 yards, a 4.3 average. So overall, the Packers allowed under 100 rushing yards, 25 attempts, 96 yards, 3.8 average, 2 touchdowns. But overall, their running defense was actually a lot better than we're used to seeing. But then again, the Panthers didn't need to run. They could simply just pass the ball, and it worked. I mean, we were all kind of like joking, like, oh, are we going to make Bryce Young the NFC Offensive Player of the Week? Like, but we all kind of still had that thought in our mind, like, it can happen. Like, it can definitely happen. And it did. It did. And like I said, this is kind of the best case scenario for me. Like, I wanted the Packers to win. I always want them to win, but I also want Joe Barry to be fired. Like, I didn't want the Packers to go against the Panthers and shut them down, and all of a sudden Joe Barry's job is safe again. No, I kind of wanted the Panthers to make Joe Barry look like Joe Barry so he can eventually be fired, but the Packers still win. So honestly, like I said, it's kind of a win-win for me, so I'm not that upset at the defense because we already know. You can kind of just repeat what we were saying last week. Joe Barry needs to go. He needs to be fired. This defense needs a complete overhaul, and hopefully it can happen sooner rather than later now. So there's not much more to say, right? We all know it. Fire Joe Barry. Flipping over to the offense, I was very impressed with the offense today. The first time they scored 30 points since week 1. So, there's a lot to like about this offensive performance, especially down 2 of their best wide receivers, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, both out. Other players had to step up, like Bo Melton, who had an awesome day today. The Packers had a skeleton crew by means at wide receiver because Wicks also left at halftime. So the Packers made it work with what they had, and Aaron Jones had an awesome day. But first, we're going to start with Jordan Love, who went 17 of 28, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, did get sacked once, and had a quarterback rating of 109.1. So a very solid day by Jordan Love. He was making some really nice throws. He made some really impressive throws as well, and he did everything he needed to win this game. Like, even if the Packers lost this game, I wouldn't have been mad at the offense. Yes, they had a couple 3-and-outs in the second half, but they scored 30-plus points. That's all you can ask for from an offense. If an offense in a week scores 30-plus points, you should win the game. And if you don't, it's definitely the defense's fault. Love did a really good job extending plays today, getting out of a potential sack, a would-be sack, rolling out and firing the ball downfield. A couple times we were kind of sitting there going, okay, Jordan Love, you should have just ran that ball. You had a wide open running lane and you tried to throw it across field and it was a bad throw. So he did miss some of them, but he also made some very impressive throws after extending the play. So I did like that a lot. Got to give a shout out to our man, Aaron Jones, who was on a snap count last week and seemingly not on one this week. He got the ball early and often, 21 carries, 127 yards, 6.0 average. And I still think he didn't get the ball enough. There was drives that they went 3-and-out where the first 3-and-out drive in the second half, he didn't get the ball once. The second drive, they handed it to him on first down. He gained 6 yards. Then they subbed him out for Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor went for -2 on a running back screen. The Packers got to remove the running back screen from their game plan. Just remove it from their playbook because they haven't succeeded in one, I think, since week 1 against the Bears. They simply have not been able to execute a running back screen. They should just stop trying to run them. But Aaron Jones multiple times wasn't out there when we all thought he should have been. This is, a common thing for us Packers fans. Aaron Jones, so great in one drive, and then the next drive, it's like, where is Aaron Jones? This happens so much. So although he went 21 for 127, I still feel like he should have got more touches. Other rushing players, Love went 2 for 12, Dillon 7 for 12, so played with a broken thumb and didn't have a good game, 1.7 average. Bo Melton had a carry, so Bo Melton was, replacing Jaden Reed, who was out of this game with injury, and they used him just like Jaden Reed, and he definitely stepped up. Moving over to the receiving stats, we'll start with Bo Melton, who didn't lead the receivers, but went 4 for 44, which is very impressive. A guy on the practice squad getting called up for the second week in a row. Last week was his first career NFL catch in a regular season game, and then this week he goes 4 for 44, making some very impressive catches. Other wide receivers, the leading receiver for the Packer, 4 receptions, 79 yards, and a touchdown is Romeo Doubs. Made some impressive catches late in that game where a lot of people are wondering, was that a catch when he kind of rolled onto the sideline, then the ball came out. He had possession. He was down on the ground. His back was on the ground. Therefore, it was ruled a catch. Tucker Kraft, 4 for 60, continues to impress. This dude, again, just tries to hurdle someone on the sideline. I mean, I feel like it should be like a prop bet at this point. Tucker Kraft hurdle, 0.5 over under. You always take the over. Tucker Kraft is going to try to hurdle someone in a game no matter what. So Dontavian Wicks went 2 for 29 and a touchdown before he injured his chest. He went and got x-rays, came back out on the sideline. He couldn't go. Then he went back into the locker room. So something to monitor going forward. Could be like a broken rib or something for Wicks. Definitely something to monitor. Aaron Jones, 1 catch, 8 yards. Samori Toure, I think, had a target but dropped it. So seemingly Bo Melton has taken over that depth spot for Samori Toure in this offense. Forgot to mention, this was the first 100-yard running performance by a running back by the Packers all year. They have yet to have a 100-yard receiving performance. Last week was close with Wicks at 97. This week, Dobbs had 79. And also, I forgot to say, Jordan Love had a rushing touchdown. They executed the Love shove perfectly. As for the special teams, it still continues to be a very undisciplined unit. So a lot of people are always praising Rich Bisaccia and how he could be a potential head coach, and they love his mentality. And I will say, like, sometimes I do see him talk and coach and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, this is a true coach. This is a guy that, you want to run into a brick wall for. But if he has that great mentality, or so we think, why is his unit so undisciplined? Why are they the most penalized special team unit in the NFL? Why do they continue to make mistakes? Anders Carlson missing a PAT. Yeah, sure, that's not on Rich Bisaccia, but other mistakes that can be controlled, such as discipline ones, like all the penalties they have. I'm not too big on Bisaccia at special teams coordinator, if I'm being honest. He came in here and he's getting so much praise, but yet the Packers special teams unit really hasn't gotten much better from when it was like the worst in the league. So right now, with the Packers win and all the other games that happened around the NFL, the Falcons beating the Colts, the Seahawks snuck away with a victory against the Titans. I thought the Titans were going to win there, but Seahawks came away with a win. The Lions beat the Vikings, securing their first ever NFC North division title. So congrats to Lions and their fans. Packers beating the Panthers and the Browns beating the Texans. The Packers now sit at a 31% chance to make the playoffs. And if they win the next 2 games, they will then be at a 96% chance. So like I said, it still can happen. I hope the Packers fire Joe Barry today or tomorrow, and maybe they get a little energy going on the defense and maybe get hot at the right moment in week 17 against the Vikings, maybe week 18 against the Bears, and maybe this defense can get something going if Joe Barry is then out of the building. And hey, maybe the Packers can get into the playoffs. But until that happens, we should all expect this defense to give the Packers a loss in week 17 or 18 and eliminate them from the playoffs. But that about does it for this video. I appreciate you guys coming by. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season. If you could leave a like down below, it supports my channel a ton. But I'll catch you on the next one. And as always, go Pack Go.